Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing a bit of a review. I get a lot of requests to do this. I also got another one last night, so I figured it was about time that I actually pulled my finger out and made this video. It seems to be a high demand topic and I get so many questions about this gun. The most popular one is what upgrades do I have in it, and the answer to that question is absolutely none. This gun is 100% standard internally, and all I've done to the exterior, as you can see, I've vinyl wrapped it in a real tree and put a scope on it. That is literally all I've done. Oh, and the suppressor. Suppressor, vinyl wrap, scope. That's it. That's all I've added. It's completely standard. People can't believe how well it shoots, and it is like everything else. You get good and bad batches of these guns. I have heard some horror stories about them, particularly with the loading ramp failing inside the gun, but I haven't had any issues with that so far, touch wood. I've owned this for over 2 years and it has been an absolute dream to shoot the entire time. Such a reliable gun. The only thing I can say with it is really heavy, so you've got to prepare yourself for that if you're going to be carrying it around all day. I'm used to the weight of it, so it doesn't really bother me, and I know how well it shoots and I get a lot of satisfaction out of using it, so the weight issue doesn't really mean anything to me. And on other days, if I want to use a light rifle, I'll just take my VSR because that is incredibly light. I'm going to list some pros and cons for you all so you know exactly how I feel about it, because I've used this for over 2 years. But before I get into that, I'm just going to reiterate, like I said, with everything, and particular with these, you get good and bad batches. I was really lucky and I've had an insanely good one out of the box. It's super accurate, the range is plenty. There hasn't been many times where I've wished for more range with this gun. I can pretty much always pull off the shots that I want to. Another thing I'd like to mention is the FPS. The fact that it shoots 370. It's around 370, 380 on .2s. Every chrono I put it through, it averages around 370, 380 FPS, which is incredibly low. It's way below the FPS limit, and it's only just above AEG limit, which is great because you don't hurt people with this gun. And it brings me back to the point, I always hear people at sites and games I go to saying, and it's always people that are snipers or planning on buying a sniper or upgrading a sniper. I always hear them saying things like, I'm going to be running my sniper at 490, or you hear other people saying, oh, I wish my sniper was high FPS. Well, you don't need FPS. This is what I always say to people, and a lot of people do know through experience. Like, I've been playing Airsoft a long time, I've been playing with this rifle for a long time, but a lot of people just don't believe you. And you don't need power to get the BBs out there. Granted, you need a certain level, otherwise they're just not going to go anywhere, but you don't need stupid power to have a good gun. It is a mixture of so many different things inside the gun that makes a gun good. And I got extremely lucky with this being as good as it is out the box. Like I said, there's good batches and bad batches, and I just haven't had a problem with this gun, touch wood. So I'm going to list some pros. Accurate, low FPS, good range, reliable. It has a nice strong bolt pull, but not too strong. The gun sounds gorgeous when you pull the trigger. Safety is very good, nice strong safety. Pistol grip is good to hold, it's comfortable. The only other thing with the stance of the gun, and this kind of crosses me over into the cons, is you have to be very particular where on this rail you place your second hand to keep it balanced, because a lot of the weight is towards the front of the gun. It has a very easy to use external hop system. This is by far the best hop adjuster I've used to date. M4 ones are pretty easy to use, you know, they're all in the V2 gearboxes through the hatch in the side, but this is just simple. Nice click, you know exactly where you are with that, and it doesn't move on its own because it's quite stiff. Mag release is awesome, easy to use. The mags sit real nice in the gun as well. I would show you, but I'm not really comfortable putting a mag in here. You just have to take my word for it. What else we got? Nice adjustable stock. It's a folding stock as well, which I will show you, but mine's very stiff now because of the age of it. That's the only issue. You just lift that up, folder in. I usually have it like that and with the suppressor off to pack it for transport. Now let's get on to the cons. Biggest one for me, like I said before, the weight doesn't bother me at all. I'm used to it and I don't mind having to lug around a heavy gun if it's going to perform well. The biggest thing that stood out to me, and I'm still having problems with it today, is the threads on this gun are shit. I don't know whether it's because it's a well, they've used cheaper materials or what it is, but the threads just don't seem to last. If you look, I'm not sure if you can see that wobbling. Well, that's probably the third or fourth time my scope rails actually come loose out of here, and one of the screws is completely gone and another one of them, the thread is on its last leg, so I'm probably going to have to tap them out to a bigger size and put some bigger bolts in. These threads on the bottom here lasted all of one game when I first got the gun. I borrowed it to a friend actually. He wanted to try the gun out. It had a bipod on it then at the time. He used it and brought it back to me broken. The bipod and rail pulled clean off there in the first game. I never bothered putting it back on. As you know, I'm an active sniper. I like to just keep moving around. I don't tend to sit in the same spot for very long. Another thing that bugged me when I bought the gun, it comes with a horrible looking tip. I don't have it to hand actually, which is why I bought the suppressor. Looks much nicer. And I quite like running suppressors on most of my guns, to be honest with you. I want to talk about the barrel. Now, it's got a floating barrel. There's nothing in here. As you can see, it's moving around quite a lot. There's nothing in there to hold this solid, which can cause your BBs to go in a particular way. So it's good that it's got a floating barrel because there's no restrictions and the BBs always fly where they're supposed to. You can adjust obviously your scope to that and your hop, so that works really well. But that being said, over time they do get insanely loose to the point where if I'm leaning this part of the barrel, well, from here onwards on cover, and I pull the trigger, the BB isn't going to go where I think it's going to go, because the barrel is then being pushed up and the BB's going to go, probably won't even be able to see it in my scope actually. Again, by experience, I figured that out. One day I was shooting, I believe we were at Netley, I was shooting some long distance shots, resting on that, and I couldn't understand why all of a sudden my gun had just turned to shit. I noticed pretty quickly what it was, lent the gun here and they work fine. It's a bit annoying because it restricts where you can go as to leaning your barrel, but as long as you know that and you're constantly aware that that's a factor that could affect your shots, you know before you even get to somewhere how you're going to rest your gun. Going back to the threads actually real quick, these bolts here are how you take this part, which I suppose you would call the upper receiver, from the lower receiver. They are like monkey metal. I've had this gun apart once, and that the only reason for that was to separate these two so I could wrap it tidy, and then I put it straight back together. I didn't go into the internals, but I literally took it apart once and stripped one of them instantly, stripped the head of the Allen key. And the only other really bad thing I can say about this gun, apart from the weight, which I've already mentioned, is, like I said, my stock's got a bit stiff over time because of the age of it, but you could easily free that up with some lube. I will actually defend well in what I said about the screw threads in the top here, because that might be self-inflicted. As you guys know, I run a pretty chunky camera on here for my scope cam videos. That's extra weight that the gun wasn't designed to take. That combined with the scope is a lot of weight, and that could have been what has broken the threads, but I don't know. Like I said, the threads in the bottom didn't last very long, and neither did those bolts there. So being well is quite cheap, most of their products are, but I can't say it's a bad gun in any way. I've enjoyed every game I've played with it, and to be honest with you, people always ask me, like I said, about the upgrades. That's a very popular question. I honestly cannot see me doing any upgrades to this unless something breaks, because I'm a great believer in if it's not broken, don't fix it, and this is just perfect the way it is really for me. A lot of people would want a lot more out of it, but I like how it shoots and I don't want to ruin it by upgrading something and it either breaking something else, or you know how you can just like drop a different hop unit or different hop rubber in your gun and all of a sudden it's shit. It's supposed to make it better but it doesn't. That happened with me with a honey badger. I put a pro win in it and it turned to absolute garbage. I ended up having to put extra stuff inside, like a bigger spring and stuff, to make the cut basically. And I don't want to have a similar issue with this. I don't see any reason to upgrade it yet. Obviously if the spring starts wearing or my hop rubber splits or something like that, then maybe I'll think about it then, but as it is now, it's a great gun. And yeah, that's it really, guys. I am going to do a disassembly and reassembly video for those of you that want to see how you take the gun apart and what upgrades you can do to it. Like I said, I haven't done any upgrades, but I am aware of a lot of upgrades. These guns are very upgradable. There's a lot of parts for them. I'll look into that even more so before I make that video, so I can be a bit more informal on it and hopefully help some of you guys out that want to upgrade it. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, if you did, please drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys next Monday.